One day I was watching cartoons. Something should be funny, but I cried. I experienced that burnout. That should be something problematic.
Why did you decide to leave the banking industry?
I can just walk like for 10 minutes and then I need to take a break. But I was running for marathon before. I printed my own name card and that person refused to take my name card because all my name card got a bank's logo on it.
How did you redefine success for yourself? What did that look like?
For now, success means
Today's conversation is for people who work hard, achieve a lot, and still feel exhausted. My guest is Cynthia Lai, an executive coach, lecturer, board advisor, and an entrepreneur. After 20 years in banking, burnout forced her to stop twice. The second time put her in the hospital. This episode is about burnout, hustle culture, and what happens when your job becomes your identity. If you're always busy and wondering how long you could keep going, this conversation is for you. I wanted to start, Cynthia, by talking about your senior banking career. And, we talked about this a little bit before recording about your two burnouts throughout that 20-year career. So if you could, maybe talk about that first moment, that first burnout, what kind of led into that? What were your behaviors like on a day-to-day basis in your career that led you to that point?
Okay. So a little bit about my banking career to start with. Okay. I started as a management trainee. So soon I joined the bank. I started to work really long hours from 9 o'clock to 11 p.m. Okay. And then I work again from 9 o'clock the other day. And for some days, I even work till the morning, like 2, 3 o'clock at home as well, starting from my management trainee years. And the same pattern, the same working pattern continues for a few years after the training program, after I landed on a permanent role. So when at the point I experienced that burnout, or I felt that because at that time I didn't know the term burnout. I have no idea around what I'm experiencing. Okay. But I got some symptoms around. Okay. I felt really exhausted and I'm not interested in anything else apart from going to work and going home. And that's only the two only things that I do in every single day. And I was not interested in eating at all. Okay. I only have breakfast and lunch, and that's it. And I can continue to work. It's so weird, right? And then
Mm.
one day I started to feel that I got some emotional problems. Okay. I was watching cartoons at home. Something should be funny, but I cried. Okay. That should be something problematic, right? But I ignore that because I got lots of things to do. So I continue to work after watching that cartoon and having my lunch at home. Then I continue to work on that Saturday. And the things keep repeating and repeating. And then at a point, I still remember that day. At that time, I was working on 9 projects concurrently. All the projects are at different stages, okay, with different kind of budgets. And I was working on also one of them is really high profile, and I'm the lead around that. And on that day, my line manager gave me some really minor comment. Yeah, it's minor comment actually, but I started to cry in the office. At that particular moment, I found that, okay, there's something wrong. I need to fix.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did so crying for you in those moments, were you able to articulate it at the time in terms of what you were feeling emotionally that brought on those tears?
For some experience, yes, but for some others, I have no idea why I cry. For example, I cry when I was watching cartoon. Okay, I have no idea why I did that. Yeah, I cannot control the tears, but at the moment I cry after having the comments from my line manager, I kind of know that okay, I felt unappreciated. I felt disappointed on myself as well because I was not delivering my best. But I also know that the reason behind all this was because I was far too busy. I just didn't have time to finish all the stuff at my best. Okay.
What were you chasing? You mentioned you were working 9 to 11 every single day. What was your motivation?
Um, I had no idea around what my motivation was at that time. Okay. But when I look back, I found that I'm a perfectionist. Okay. So I got my own standard. So definitely I was tracing for my own standard at that time. And at the same time, I always feel that, okay, I can do it better. I can do it in a better way. I can do something new. Okay. That not good enough or imposter syndrome keeps appearing during that time. Okay. And you also got motivation from your line manager and your peers as well. Okay. Because you are working on so much things, so many things. Okay. The others will feel that, okay, you are top performers, you are doing lots of things and you can handle different kind of things. Okay. You are a good team players and you are a good team members. Okay. Different kind of appreciation. I think at that time, all these positive things together with my own standard on myself pushed me to keep working harder and harder, ignoring all the syndromes or all the signals I felt or I experienced on my health or on my body or even my mental health.
Where did that come from? Because when you're talking about
Mm,
your motivation and
yeah.
being a perfectionist and being a top performer, I can relate to that a lot. And I know where mine came from really quickly. You know, there were certain things that I did when I was young that I felt through my parents were never told to me were done correctly. So I always was put in a position that I had to continue to do things better. No matter how confident I felt in the moment, like cleaning my room, it was like it wasn't good enough. So I felt like I needed to constantly be perfect. And it translated into a lot of my behaviors when I became an adult in the working world. So for you, what was, you know, if you look back at potentially what was the nucleus that drove you to this sort of personality that you have now, if you've, you know, really done some digging on that?
I think what you mentioned about is even more common in Asian communities or Asian families. When I was young, when I was a kid, my parents just keep asking me to work harder, study harder, okay, because they would love to have me to have like good results so that I can go to good schools, okay. That is kind of
Mm.
the traditional mindset of Asian parents. It's really common, and even today all the parents think the same. They would like to have their kids to go to like good universities. So starting from like a small kids, I was asked to stay, I get high school for my thesis exam and do perfect assignment, homework, etc. And then as time go by, actually those kind of behaviors will build up. Okay. And I exactly bring those into my career because I was a biology graduate, but I joined banking as a management trainee. So you can definitely see the gap in between. I have no ideas around what banking is around or what banking means. I don't know what is investment, what's insurance, but I need to work on all this kind of initiative. So at that time, I believe that not just mentally think I think that I was not good enough, but actually practically I also got some gaps around what I'm working on because my professional training was not in banking, but I'm working on the banking stuff.
Mm. So a lot of it from past experiences
Yeah.
and upbringing resulted in that work ethic and
Mm.
that resilience. Um, so when we think about that, when you look back at that, and what were some of the things that you were saying to yourself during that time? Because you're working 9 to 11, you're going through some emotional bursts, like crying when you're watching cartoons. How did you rationalize those moments after? What were you telling yourself?
Well, at that time, I just kept reminding myself that I can do that. That's my assignment. That's my tasks. Okay. I can do that. I got deadlines. Okay. So I just focus on the deadlines and my task list. Okay. You can term those as my motivations to a certain extent, but I know it is not right and it's not healthy as well. But that's how I lived or how I reminded myself at that particular period over those years, actually.
So there's something interesting about that experience and the way you talk to yourself during that time, because you actually got yourself into a pattern where you continued to do this
Mhm.
over the next several years, and you ended up getting to the point where you were hospitalized. Take us through that.
Mm. Okay, so for the first burnout, actually, I didn't need to go to the hospital and so, but I got some immune response. Okay, I started to have food allergy. Okay, previously I can have like seafood, but suddenly I cannot take any seafood. Yeah, it is quite weird, right? But what my doctor told me was because of pressures. Okay, pressure can create different kind of issues in your immune system, and that's why I got food allergy. Okay, and I still got that food allergy today after like 10 years, I guess. Yeah, I still have that. Yeah, so it's kind of a really good reminder around that first burnout. So what I've done after realizing that I needed to make a change, I resigned. Okay, after crying in the office, because that night I just couldn't stop the tears. Okay, I didn't know why, so I understand that I need to make some changes. Okay, that's why I resigned. Okay, then I started to think about what I should do or what is the exact change I do. Okay. I still remember that at that time I received two offers. Okay. One is kind of a promotion with another bank. I got chances to be a team leaders and looking at something that I find quite exciting about. Okay. And another role is just like a really relaxed role. I can describe it in this way. Okay. You will know that you got something to do, but it will not be that exciting. Okay. I took the later one. I took the relaxed role. Okay. To help me to recover for like half a year. And that's how I support myself throughout that very first burnout.
Mm. You made the decision after those two incidences to leave your company, to leave the banking industry. That must have been a very difficult decision, considering that you spent 20 years building this sense of identity and resilience around just hustle culture. I understand that that physiological impact and being hospitalized could definitely be the camel that broke the back sort of thing, the straw that broke the camel's back, and put you in a position to say, okay, I now need to make a change. Why did you decide to leave the banking industry as opposed to maybe configure a new schedule or create new boundaries in your current workplace? Because 20 years is a long time. How did you make that decision?
Okay, so I guess it's because I got the experience from the first burnout. So I know that even if I change job, my life is kind of similar. And that's why I got my second burnout and I got hospitalized. Okay. And then I also find that it's more like if I put myself into the same environment, very likely I will be in the same cycle again. Okay. Because the people working with me will be similar and I will be handling, say, similar projects. And as time go by, I will lead bigger team and doing, say, even more complex projects, etc. So I will need to handle more pressure as well. That's what I can expect. So I guess another push factor is when I got hospitalized, I felt really weak. Okay. On one day, I can just walk like for like 10 minutes and then I need to take a break. Okay. But I was running for marathon before. That's kind of that's kind of one of the push factor for me as well, because I felt that what's happening? I cannot run anymore and even walk. I can only walk for 10 minutes. Okay. It's crazy, right? So I guess all these things put together um, encouraged me to leave the banking industry. Definitely, there's lots of struggle in between because I spent 20 years there and I was with a good company. I got a good line manager and I got a good team as well. So I kind of giving up a lot from other perspective or from other people's perspective when I made that decision.
How did you feel after you made that decision? Was there a sense of loss, a sense of grief? Did you feel as though your identity was missing?
Oh my God. Yes, actually. I guess that identity thing, the loss of identity was, I fell around that after I left the banking industry and joined a networking event. Okay. At that time, I printed my own name card with my own coaching and consulting company and I handed it out. And that person refused to take my name card. Okay. And that's the very first time in my life that someone refused my name card. Because previously, all my name card got a bank's logo on it, right? And everyone wants to have a connection with someone in the bank because you need banking at certain points in your life, no matter for your company or for yourself. Okay, right. So there's this the very first moment that I feel, okay, I lost my identity. I'm not with any banks anymore. So where am I right now?
It's funny because it shows you how connected your identity is to your place of work or your career at the time. And did you know that at that moment your card was rejected because it didn't have the bank logo, or is that something you discovered after a while? Like how did you understand that it wasn't you yourself, it was the fact that you didn't have that big conglomerate representing you?
Um, I realized that on the venue at that particular moment because I joined that particular networking event earlier as a banking representative, as a executive director from a bank. I joined the same event, okay, and then I joined it again, not as someone from the banking industry, okay, and I got a really different experience. So I knew that, okay, it's because the logo has changed.
How did you reconcile with that at that point, that your name at this moment didn't bring the same value as it used to? And then how did you shift?
Well, at that moment, I felt lost, okay, because I just don't know, okay, I got lots of self-doubt as well because I was not sure around was my decision leaving the banking industry was right. Because right now, even my name card was not being appreciated. Okay. It's got rejected. Okay. Then I talked to some friends and those friends, they also experience the same. They left their corporate life and start something on their own. Can it be a startup or consultant or just being a freelancer, different kind of things. And all of them shared exactly the same story. Okay. Just they felt lost after leaving the corporate world and they took quite a while to adapt to the new role or the new identity. Because when after leaving the corporate world, what we need to do is that we need to be really clear around what exactly the values we can create for can it be our customers or our partners. Because when you are with a big corporate, what you need to do is to present your title and that's it. then you can represent your organization to talk about different partnership, collaboration, etc. But now you need to put your values very upfront to get the chance to start the conversation. I think that's the biggest realization I have after leaving the banking industry.
Hmm. So I guess I'm wondering, Cynthia. So here, like, I'm trying to understand, where your experience kind of led you to doing what you're doing right now and not feeling burnt out anymore. Because you kind of think of it this way, where when you work with an organization and you're doing 9 to 11, like you said, you can tell there's burnout. You had a lot of demands. You mentioned you were working on like 10 projects concurrently, etc. Those are the things that definitely can burn you out. However, there's a case to be said that if you go out on your own and you don't have a job, and now you're relying on your own abilities, your own skills, your own networking, all of that stuff to build the life that, even to match what you had prior, working safely with an organization. How did you avoid burnout moving forward? Because isn't there a potential that you could have burnt yourself out trying to build your own name, your own career without having that company supporting you?
Yes, I think it's very easy for people who work on their own to have burnout because you do not have a boss anymore and you do not have like a working schedule. Okay. All the entrepreneur I talk to, they work 24/7 and there's no rest
Hmm.
day or holidays. Okay. Many of them do not have holidays. So I'm quite lucky that I got my husband is a really good reminder because he is a civil servant. Okay. So he has never experienced overtime in his life. Okay. So from time to time, every single day, he reminded me to work for only 8 hours a day and he canned me. So today he's actually complaining because I work for more than 8 hours for today, okay, including this recording. Yeah. So I guess to avoid burnout, apart from changing the mindset, is very helpful if you got someone to support you or if you can share your desire around having these boundaries with someone you trust or someone who is surrounding you so that you can get reminders from time to time.
Is that a big, would you say that's a prerequisite when you're looking to shift away from being, in a position that's burning you out to being in a position where you're in totality responsible for your outcomes? Would you say one of those important factors is having a support system, talking to people about what you're trying to do, and having those people help you create and solidify those boundaries?
Uh, I think the very first thing is the mindset change. Okay. You need
Mm.
to believe that you can have that boundary. Okay. That after having that mindset change, then the support system can make it happen. If you do not have that mindset change, even if you got a really strong support system, it cannot help a lot because you still believe that I need to work for like 20, 12 or 14 hours a day to achieve what I want to achieve.
And so take us through your mind frame shift. So you mentioned it starts with yourself. You have to change
Mm.
that mind frame. How did you redefine success for yourself? What did that look like?
So for now, success means doing something meaningful. In the past, I got quite a lot of figures when I talk about success. Today, I still got some figures around, but I think I kind of reprioritize what I care most. Okay, what I really value. For example, now that I start to teach, okay, I'm a part-time lecturer, and teaching is always something that I want to do. I really enjoy connecting with the younger generation and helping others to learn as well. Okay. But I do not have time to do something like this before when I have a full-time job. So for now, I we prioritize my life, and I will focus on things that can create values, not just to myself, but also create impact to the others as well, maybe to the communities or to someone I cares or to segment I cares around. So I think it's not just because the mindset change of the shift, then your priorities will change, and your priorities and your values will definitely guide your behaviors and what you do in your day-to-day life.
And how did you discover your values and your principles? Like, how did you discover it during that time? Because I'm sure there was a lot of emotion going on. You're making a big life change decision. How did you take time to really look at what you value and what's most meaningful to you? How did you discover that?
Mm. I am also a certified coach myself. Okay. So I've done lots of personality tests throughout the years, not just by myself, but also quite a lot from the banks as well. So when I was undergoing the transformation or the transition, I just take out all the report I did, okay, and try to see whether there's any, say, common points in between, anything I can draw on. It's always better to start on something instead of from a blank sheet of paper, right? So I just from those reports. And then I started to ask people surrounding me, okay, rather what I identified are correct or are accurate from their perspective. Okay. Because as we all know, how we see ourselves is quite different from how the others see us. Okay. So by putting all things together, then I consolidated my values and also my priorities. Okay. Be honest, I'm still adjusting what exactly I should work around or what is the working style that can serve me the best because I am still evolving and exploring different paths that I should work on as my second career, if I put it like this.
And Cynthia, thanks for sharing that, because I think it's such an important perspective. It's that internal aspect of doing the work to understanding what your values are. Because you're right. Sometimes if you just sit down with a pen and a paper and you say to yourself, "What are my values?" You may not write down a list of things, but you may write a list of things that are favorable to you, right? Because you
Yeah.
want to see yourself that way. So I love the fact that you're doing online quizzes, and I know there's a lot of free online quizzes that you can do for personality tests. All the ones that I do typically come back and talk about the same things,
Mm.
right? Like I'm analytical. I'm also very conscientious in terms of, empathy, how other people are feeling, etc. So I kind of know a lot of my values in terms of, these tests that I've done. Something else that I was told a long time ago, which I thought is fantastic, is asking the people closest to you, like, what words would describe, what words would they use to describe you? And it's very interesting because if you get them to give you a few words and you ask them why, then they get to share with you some things that you've done, that they've seen, that they've noticed, and not always to them specifically, but maybe how you've handled situations. So it's really cool when you hear that. And, you're not always going to hear the best words. Maybe you'll hear that, you're a little bit selfish, right? So it's like, it's good to be aware of your flaws too and how people perceive you, because I think it helps you kind of build on what are the things that I'm doing well that are making a good impact on people that I'm not even aware of. So I can imagine it's inspiring a lot of ways hearing these things from other people. So I thought it was a really, really good exercise. When you're doing this transition, though, right now, what have you learned since your burnouts and the breakdowns that you have? What have you learned about listening to your body now as you reinvent yourself?
I think for now, I know when to stop. Yeah, I think this is very
What
important. Yeah, because
What are those
previous,
signs?
yeah, what are those signs? For example, I'm a runner. Okay, I finished like 3 semi-marathon previously. Okay, and previously, every time I run, I clock my time. Okay, I keep checking on my speed, rather I can beat my target, etc. That's what I did before. But after all these happenings, I started to enjoy running. Okay. Because people see if I just keep tracking on my, say, on my time, on my speed, etc., I just keep running and doing this. And I was so crazy that I ran for a run at 11 p.m. back then. Okay. And then I come back to work again for 2 more hours. Okay. That's how I liked previously. I didn't know when to stop and how to stop. Okay. But now, okay, I listen to my body. When I feel tired, I stop. When I feel I am not in a good mood or I'm not fit enough to finish like my training schedule, I just will change my training schedule just to make sure that my health comes to the top priority instead of something else.
I have to ask, how do you stop? Because I can imagine how difficult it is for you. When I was looking at your LinkedIn, Cynthia, and I don't know what the average is, but I was looking at your different sections, and you have under skills 58 accumulated skills. You have 11 volunteer experiences, 19 licenses and certifications, eight educations listed, 16 experiences. When I look, I was just put back when I saw all of that. And when I thought about your story before we talked about, your career, your 20-year career in burnout, how much of this was just self-induced? And are you still prone to potentially doing that same thing again?
I think, be honest, I think like I call it, I cause the burnout 90%. I guess 90% is my own responsibility because um I was lucky enough I didn't have like any crazy bosses in my 20 years banking career. All of them were really good bosses. So they had never pushed me to my limits. They just encouraged me to until my potential, etc. But I am always the one who push myself to the limit. Okay. No matter is at work, as in my professional life in the bank, or on my study, I just keep asking myself, or I just keep feeling that, okay, I need to learn more things because I don't want to have any knowledge gap. Okay. That's how I think about all stuff before. But after all this experience, especially after that hospitalization, I realized that I cannot know all things. Okay. For sure, I need to accept that I have some gaps. Okay. So, should I try to turn what I have into something that can really support me instead of learning something new? Okay. So that is kind of the shift or kind of the change I had after that hospitalization. So what I'm doing right now is that I stopped learning something new, okay, by my definition. I try to consolidate what I have learned before into practice. For example, through learning, through training, or just through supporting the others. Okay. So that I can really internalize what I've learned throughout the years to do something meaningful and create values.
That's a really good perspective. I like that. So it's like you're not trying to put more information in the cup. You're just trying to use the information you have right now and see what you can do to learn more from it to build you. That's a really good way of looking at it because I'm of the same mind as well. I love to read. I love to learn. I love to consume information, but I've also learned over the last several years that it's not about the quantity of information that you consume. It's about the quality of what you get from that information. And I've actually gone back to reading some books that I've already read because I find like when you read, and I don't know if you feel this as well, but whenever you're doing any sort of learning or education, especially when it comes to behavioral skills and things like that, you tend to adapt it to the place where you're at specifically in your life. And I'm assuming, things that you were learning when you're in the bank, you're probably applying a lot of those principles to your actual role. where now you could probably get those same certifications and read those same books now that you're in your self invented career and apply the information differently. Have you been able to do that sort of indexing on the information you already have right now and apply it? Maybe say like, I remember doing this in my banking, but it's going to apply differently for me right now. So are you doing that with some of the information you've learned?
Sort of. Uh, but maybe because I learned all stuff. Okay. I got all the certificate you saw on my LinkedIn profile throughout my banking
Oh
career.
yeah.
Yeah, I've applied all of them in my banking career, actually. So for now, what I'm doing right now, I guess it's more like a hybrid. Okay.
Hmm.
Apart from just the knowledge or what I learned from those certification, I'm also adding something that I learned from my banking career. Can it be through the experience of leading different kind of projects or my interaction with different types of stakeholders throughout the career? Because what I realize right now is that um, especially after we have ChatGPT, okay, knowledge is still important. You still need to learn something, but the key for today or the key for success for today is more around the human advantages. This is the human skill, i.e., the things that AI cannot do. Okay, if we just focus on things that AI can do, like in the past when I was studying for my law certificate, for example, we need to have closed book exam. Okay, we need to remember the cases. Okay, but for now, what's the point of remembering all the cases if Gemini and ChatGPT can help you pull out all the cases in seconds? Okay, so I think for now, the key is how I can connect the dots for all the things I have right now, and together with the input from AI as well, because today AI actually can help a lot, and it can help me to reshape all the knowledges and the skills and experience I have into another level or elevate to another level that can support my client and my new tasks that I'm having right now.
Very interesting that you bring up AI. As it sits with burnout, do you feel that AI could actually reduce and prevent burnout for people? Because as you were talking about remembering all these case studies,
Yeah.
and now we have AI that can do it for us in seconds, do you think that's an additive in avoiding burnout for people moving forward?
I think it depends, okay? Because sometimes you will spend lots of time talking to AI because you would like to modify your answer. And unlike human, AI can give you answer in seconds, right? So you do not need to wait. So it's quite easy to be adaptive around talking to AI. That maybe you spend hours talking to AI just to perfect a presentation or a course material, etc. Okay. So I'm still learning how to make AI a better partner. Can it be thinking partners or just like a sounding board for some time? Okay. Because if we can use AI very smartly, it can help a lot. It can help us save time for those manual work. Then we definitely we can have more time on something even more meaningful. And in the past, we got burned out because we just got so many tedious work to do, so many tasks to do. Nowadays, with AI, we can streamline some of the tasks, but still, we got other things to do. So I guess the key is not about rather or not to use AI. It's about how you use AI to support you in the way that can really work for you.
Yeah, and I think we're all learning that now. I think we're all trying to navigate this new world and see how it can be advantageous for us. When you think about your identity now, what has been the key or the core shift about Cynthia now versus Cynthia 20 years ago?
Wow. 20 years ago, um, I always introduce, not 20 years ago, just a few months ago, when I was still with banking, I always introduce myself first by the name of the bank, not by my name.
Mm.
Okay. Or the people, when they receive my name card, first they will read the name of the bank. Okay. So I would describe back then, I was more like uh, part of the bank, a product of the bank, or my identity is just part of the bank. Okay. It's not my own identity. It's more like I'm an employee of the bank. This is always my identity. But right now, definitely I will introduce myself as Cynthia Lai. It's me and always me. Okay. I got my own coaching and consulting company. I'm also a co-founder of a tech startup as well. But most of the time, I will introduce myself as a person before I touch on the legal entity that I'm working with. Yeah.
So now you coach leaders, you work with executives in scaling their businesses. And in that, I can imagine there's always the risk of those individuals burning out. How have you applied, or do you apply your own lessons from burnout into the coaching and to the support mentorship that you provide today? How have you intertwined those?
Burnout is actually a really common topic. Okay. But most of the time, we do not say the term burnout because all the
Hmm.
executive and founders, they just don't think they have burnout. They just feel that they got lots of things to do. Okay. They have endless task lists. Okay. So I guess most of the time, when I was it really depends on the role of me. Okay. If I'm a coach, I will not provide advice, but I understand their situation because I was there. So I know how to guide them through the conversation so that they can realize that I need to make a change right now. Or I will give up something that I don't want to, for example, their health or their family time. Okay. This is something that happened quite a lot in the coaching conversation. But when I am a mentor, definitely I can share what I experience, okay, to help my mentees or to have my mentees or clients to understand that, okay, if I do not take action right now, I might need to experience something similar. And definitely no one want to be hospitalized or quit the career because of push factors, right? So I guess it's kind of a mix, but definitely, I don't want to say I was lucky to have those experience. I just didn't want to have go through them. But for now, when I look back, I just feel that it's an experience. Yeah, I cannot change that because I do not have the time machine. But for now, I can turn those experience into something that can help the others or inspire the others so that they can save efforts around or they can avoid experiencing the same.
Mm. That's excellent. That's awesome that you're doing that. When you're talking to these executives and founders, what are the signs that you understand that will lead to burnout when they speak to you about what they're doing? Like, what are the things that they're saying that make you say, oh, you're on your way to burnout, or you could be burning yourself out?
Uh, it's quite common that when they talk about priorities, okay? Yeah. All of us love talking about priorities, right? When I hear my client talking about priority, like three, four priority, but still about work, still about the company, career, etc., but nothing about themselves, very likely they're experiencing something not really nice to them. Okay. So at that particular moment, I always keep asking, okay, do you have other things that you care about? Okay. And then very likely they will come up with something around themselves. Okay. Health is a really common topic. Okay. Because when you work too much, it definitely you will got some health issues. Okay. No matter big or small. Okay. It's quite common actually. You may feel really tired all the time, or you have back pains, for example, because you have been sitting for too long. Okay. Different kind of things. So I guess when when I talk to my client, it's more like offering them the space to rethink around or reflect around what they really want, and where are they right now, so that they will know how to choose between.
Why do you do the work that you do?
I think it's more around seeing the person in front of me as a person. Yeah, it's really different from what I did when I was in banking, because when I was in banking, it's always about figures, target, different kind of thing. Definitely, you got the part around people management. Okay, but for now, when I'm working as like a coach, it's more like a people business, I would say. So just focus on my client and see how can I help? Okay. How can I create a values for him or her? It's more around helping him or her to got some kind of realizations, something that they can take away. I think that's the key.
When you think about high achievers and you being a high achiever yourself, and how high achievers are more apt to burn out, what would you want a person listening to you today that is a high achiever? What would you want them to know?
Um, I think a really good exercise is to look at your calendar and measure the time you spend on yourself throughout the day. Yeah, maybe you just look at like 2, 3 days. That should be good enough. And you will be amazed how little time you spend on yourself. Yeah. And then I guess that should be a starting point. Um, because if we do not have that realization, we will not change, especially for high achiever, because they really enjoy the appreciation, the fulfillment they gain from what they are doing right now. Okay. But you ask them to visualize where they are. That should be kind of a really good reflection for them, I guess.
What would that look like? Would they, pull up their Outlook calendar and kind of see where they're slotted in times for themselves? Would they just write it down? Like, how would that exercise work for somebody who wanted to go do that right now?
Okay, so I always tell my client that you do not need to do something extra. Just pull out your Outlook calendar or Google Calendar. Okay. So we all of us got 24 hours, right? So you will know when do you start to work and when you end your work. And for most of us who love working, okay, or workaholic, you should be working like 14 hours a day, maybe. Yeah. Then you only got 10 hours left. So then you will know when do you have lunch or while you have lunch. Okay. Maybe on your calendar, you'll find that you got lunch meeting. That doesn't mean that you have that lunch hour for you because it's for work already. So that means maybe you got 16 hours for working already. Then you only got 8 hours left. So how many hours do you sleep? Okay. Really, you sleep for like 6 hours, then you only got 2 hours left. And you need to travel and you need to take showers. So what does it mean? It means that maybe you only got 5 minutes for yourself.
It's a really good exercise, and it's eye-opening. Have you seen somebody go through that exercise?
Yeah, some of my clients go through that and they they try not to admit that actually. They
I could
try to
imagine their
argue,
reaction.
yeah. They try to argue that okay, I have breaks, okay. I got coffee breaks, okay. I got that 30 minutes for me because I got coffee breaks, okay. And I only need like 4 hours sleep, so I got like 2 more hours for myself, okay. But then the next question is, if you sacrifice your sleeping time, is it good for you? Is it sustainable? Yeah, I think there are lots of questions that we can ask ourselves. Okay, but the very first step is to admit that you need to change. Okay, so looking at something or having a visualization can be really helpful because if we just talk, it's very easy that you will trick me around, right?
Yeah, it's a great exercise, Cynthia, and I like that because I always think it visually puts into perspective the time you're not giving yourself. You could think you're giving yourself time, and you could fool your mind as much as you want, but when you put it down on paper or on your screen and you take stock, you realize I'm not really giving myself that time. And even if I am believing I am, it's probably not really concentrated. It's probably not really focused. Um, it's probably not really centered around me. It's like you said, I do take my lunch, but what are you doing during your lunch? Are you checking emails? Are you responding to certain things, right? Maybe you're not in a team meeting at that time, but you're potentially still working around the clock. And I could imagine for a lot of high achievers, and I know I've gone through this experience myself, it's really hard to detach. It's hard to detach because you're constantly thinking about the conversations you've had, the work that you've done, how it's landing. Then you're thinking about what you still need to do, the conversations you still need to have, the work that you're still going to be responsible for. But then you look in the present, which is, okay, what do I need to do now to, essentially reconcile what I can't deal with anymore in the past, but improve what I'm doing in the future. It's such a it's such a circle, it's such a wheel that it's hard for a high achievers to get out of. So what would be your advice for somebody who is stuck in that cycle and connecting that cycle to value, to worth, to some sort of sense of accomplishment? Like, how do you help somebody break that cycle and form a new path? Because I can imagine even in your conversations with some executives or founders that it must be very challenging for them to think that if they go this different route and put more time or attention into themselves, that they're still going to yield the same, if not better results. Like, how do you help people understand that?
I always encourage my client to start with small because it's very hard to ask us to change our entire calendar or all your habits, right? So most of the time, I will just invite them to like give themselves 5 more minutes a day, just 5 minutes. Okay. Sometimes my client told me that they do not have 5 minutes. Okay. Then 3 minutes. Okay. Just give yourself like 3 minutes doing something that can make you happy. Can it be listening to a song? Can it be just have like go for a walk, 3 minutes walk? Okay, just go for a walk. Okay, just do anything that can make you happy. Just 3 minutes. Put down all your work and give yourself 3 minutes. Okay. So as time go by, most of my clients they can increase that time from like 3 minutes, 5 minutes to 10 minutes from like listening to a song, maybe go for a walk or go for a run. Okay. And they start to realize the benefits of this very short break. And this will encourage them to make bigger change. I think the very important thing is take the action. No matter how small is it, even 3 minutes, it helps. You can spend that 3 minutes doing mindfulness, doing breathing exercise, and it can help as well. And after realizing the benefits, most of the people will have the feeling that, okay, I should continue that because I can feel the benefits. It's kind of the positive feedback loop, right? So I think it's very important to start small. And after experiencing the benefit, just continue. Okay. No matter how small is it, just try to build that habit. And that can definitely help a lot.
Cynthia, if you were able to change the perspective of hustle culture and the way it's perceived as this positive badge of honor that you're hustling, you're always busy. If you had the ability to wave a magic wand and change the perspective of hustle culture globally, what would you say or what would you do?
Do less, be focused. Yeah. Because I think the hustle culture is really is highly related to like multitasking that all of us are really used to. Yeah. So just like when we are having Zoom meeting, most of the people they're actually typing emails looking at their phone, doing different kind of things, right? So I think if we really want to change that hustle culture, the key thing is do less. Okay, be focused. Okay? When you are having a Zoom meeting, just have that meeting. Okay, when you are walking on the street, put down your phone and put down your iPod as well. Just walk. Okay, and you will experience a difference.
That lesson. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your story. That's such a personal story where you ended up being hospitalized because of your burnout. And I think that's a very important lesson, obviously, an important lesson that you went through yourself, but it's also a very important lesson for other people. They may not get to that point, but stress manifests in different ways for different people. And it's important to take time to relax and understand what your body's saying. You know, your mind is going to convince you of certain things based on your ego, based on responsibilities, based on, deadlines. But you also have to listen to your body because your body is the conductor of your emotions and it's going to send you signals. You just have to pay attention. So thank you for sharing your story, Cynthia, and what your body showed you, because you obviously took a very different route. And I can imagine you're much more better for it and other people through your lessons. Is there anything in our conversation today that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
Uh, Thank you for this opportunity to reflect around my journey because I think this is also a really great lesson for myself as well, and also a very good reminder. I keep reminding myself not to be back to that cycle anymore because you cannot change your personality even with your mindset change or mindset shift. So it's always important to remember that terrible experience so that I will not do that again. And thank you for this opportunity to remind me or to help me to go through all this again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a perfect segue where we finish off with you reading the letter to your former self. So take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So to Cynthia, are you happy with who you are? I know you love being in control. And now, as you are ill, nothing is. It is the life you want. Is it necessary to trade your health for a career? Do you want to spend the next 20 years in a vicious cycle? If you die today, someone else will pick up your tasks tomorrow, but your husband will lose his wife and your parents will lose their daughter. You have options. Rethink your life priorities. Ask yourself what matters most.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That was very honest and very raw, and very expressive. So thank you, Cynthia, for today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.